Hello, welcome back. Now today I'm going to be answering one of your most asked questions
of all time.
The question that I've been getting since the dawn of the dinosaurs. What art supplies do you use? Today I've made a list of all my favorite art supplies that I like to use. Paint, graphite, gouache, colored pencils. I mean, you name it, you're gonna find it in this list. So yeah, let's just get right into it. Starting off with sketching. Now for graphite pieces, I usually sketch with a B pencil. Now I used to sketch with an HB pencil, but I found that it was really hard to control it. Then I moved on to a 2B pencil and I found that it was like kind of too soft to control, so I ended up sticking to a B pencil. I 100 times recommend this. This is one of the most beautiful pencils that I've ever used, and it just comes in really handy. But what it doesn't come in handy is when I'm trying to do a painting. Now you guys know me, I love doing paintings, but I hate sketching with graphite in particular, because graphite with canvas, it's like really hard to erase and you guys can't erase it. So I have gotten a solution over the years with it, which is using a colored pencil, a watercolor pencil to be exact. Now I recommend using blue and red because these two colors, they blend into any color, and they just blend into the colors because they're water-based and the paints are water-based. It's easily said and done. Now you can use any other color, like if you're doing a whole piece out of greenery, you can use green. You know, you get my point. But yeah, I really like these watercolor pencils, and I also a lot of the times use them for adding like some kind of pop of color to my pieces. Like, you guys know me, I love pop of color. I love a kind of colorful background, especially if I'm doing a kind of black and white artwork. So yeah, colored pencils, try them. While we're on the topic of paint, let's talk about paint.
Acrylic paint in particular.
First of all, with acrylic painting, you have to consider that there are a lot of steps in the process, which it may not seem like it, but there are a lot of steps. First of all, you need to buy canvas. You need to prime your canvas with some gesso, which is here. I use the Byeee gesso, and it's 500 milliliters. It's for only acrylic paint. Beware, it's only for acrylic paint. If you're doing oil painting, you're gonna have to buy another gesso, another type of gesso. The gesso is only made for acrylic paints. Now, I'm not gonna lie, gesso is kind of pricey. It lies around 250 pounds, or it lies from 200 to 250 pounds in my local arts. Also, I'm gonna leave links to everything down below so you guys can easily access them. Time to speak about paint. With paint, you have to consider that there are a lot of like grades. Paint, now there is like the professional grade to the like really cheap grade, to the like student grade, to the mediocre grade, I guess. So yeah, let's speak with my most favorite paints of all time. I have bought these Liquitex paints like a couple months ago, and I am in love with them. Like, let me tell you, these are amazing. I've got the 12-piece set. Now this set, it has 12 colors, but each color is only 22 milliliters. But these paints, yes, I've done a couple paintings with them, and you may think that they're small, but they're really worth their price because they last so much. Like, you can't even tell that I used paint from them. I've also got a bigger tube of white in 59 milliliters because I'm always gonna need extra white. Let's speak about my middle grade paints. Now I'm gonna start with my more favorite brand, which is the Curl brand. Now I have 10 tubes of these, and I've got a couple different colors. Now in the beginning, when I started paintings, these were the only brand of paints that I used, but I moved on since then. But I still buy a couple colors from them because I absolutely love these paints. I'm also absolutely in love with this emerald green over here. Recommend it. Now these paints, their price, these paints are kind of different from the Happy Body. These are really watery, but it doesn't say that they are liquid acrylic on it, but they're kind of watery. They're kind of more of a, I guess, runny consistency. Just to clarify it, it's not like a watery consistency that, heavy. It's more soft and it's easier to spread across the canvas. But a thing that is kind of weird with these paints is that their price goes up like the stock market. Like last year, a tube of these was around 70 pounds. Now a tube of these is around 100 pounds. Like, it's kind of expensive for what you're getting, but I absolutely love these paints. Now also what I do is that a lot of the times I don't want to like waste my paints on layers which are gonna get covered with paints anyways. So I use the more cheaper paints for these layers and then I go on top of them with my more expensive paints. My other middle grade brand is the Human. Of these, I've recently started getting into those because their prices are really going up and their colors are going down. Like there isn't that big of a color selection nowadays, so I started getting more of these. Now I've got a couple different colors. I've got some blues, some yellows, some red, and a black. These tubes are a little bit bigger from the other ones. Now these tubes are actually bigger than the other ones. They are 250 and the other ones coming in at 200 milliliters. Also have a few tubes by Talent. These paints are pretty good, but they're not the best. I got a couple colors, but I've got a big tube of white because neither of these two brands of paint did I find any white. I'm sure there is white, but I haven't seen it in stores, so I got the Talon's one. Lastly, for the grand finale, I mean like the cherry on top, I got these really cheap Madison paints. These are the same brand as the Gesso. These are like 25 Egyptian pounds each, which is cheap. It's around $1 each. But they are good for $1 each, But these paints I pretty much use for the projects or paintings that I don't really care about. Like for my abstract painting video that I did, I used these paints because I didn't want to waste my more expensive paints, Now let's talk about mediums. Now I only use one type of medium for acrylic painting, which is medium brilliant, gloss medium. Now what this does is that when you mix it in with the paint, it makes it not dry as fast and the acrylic dries pretty fast. So you don't waste as much paint, but be careful while putting this because if you put like too much on your acrylic paints may never dry. I'm not kidding, yes, they can actually not dry, so be careful. I recommend putting around a quarter of the consistency of the paint that you're putting. So if I'm putting like 100 milliliters of this, I only put like 20 milliliters of this, And that concludes it for acrylic paints. Now let's move on to one of my most favorite art supplies ever, which are paint pens. Now, I've tried a couple different brands of paint pens, but these are the most expensive so far, but they are the best so far. They have lasted me over a year now, and I've been using them a lot. They are the Uniposca paint pens. Now, these are Japanese paint pens, but they are absolutely amazing. I love them. Like, whenever I'm doing like a kind of different style, like illustration, color blocking, whatever of these, I love using these. I actually found out that you can blend using these if you go fast. These are like a hybrid between poster paints and acrylic paints and marker. I love that you can take them on the go and just do a whole complete artwork with them, and I just love everything about them. Acrylic paints aside, I love using some other mediums, like watercolor. For watercolor, I have two different brands. I got the Byeee brand, which is expensive as heck. So I would recommend you guys getting this set, like if you're really sure about what you're doing. And this other set is the Faber-Castell set, which is not as expensive. It's like less than half of the price of this one. These both have 12 colors in them, but this one is again more professional, but this one has more like neon and more colors that aren't used in professional artwork. Not saying that neons aren't used in professional artwork, but you get my point, you know. But I actually really love this set, so I also use it along with this set, but I also love this set. You know, you get it. For watercolor, I have the watercolor brushes similar to the Pentel water brush pens, but I don't really use them. I end up using a watercolor brush. Any brands really work, but I like only using the synthetic fibers. I don't like using the ones with animal hair. First of all, it's weird. Second of all, I don't like the texture of them on the paper. I don't like how they hold water. I prefer the synthetic fibers, so yeah. The next art supply is gouache, which I don't really use as much, but I kind of do use surprisingly, but not as much. Now I use the Talons gouache set, which is not as expensive. It's around 100 for this set. The gouache here is the best gouache that I've tried yet, better than other expensive brands that I've tried elsewhere. So yeah, I really recommend these. I've got the 12 set, and I've also got the 24 set. The 12 set someone gave it to me on my birthday, which if you're watching this, you know who you are. Shout out to you. Now let's talk about my kind of becoming my favorite medium, which is graphite. Now for graphite, I love using the 11-inch graphite set, but throughout using it, I found that I don't really use everything in it. I only use the pencils and the water soluble pencils. I don't like use the graphite pure stick. I never use it.
Never gonna use it because it's, you know, sort of that novelty item, which I guess if you're a collector, it's an investment, but for someone like me who just wants to make art, I feel like it's unnecessary.
It's kind of like more like a collection. Yeah, if you're not willing to spend much on a set, I've got your back. You can buy separate pencils. Now for graphite, for me, I really love going with like the darkest of the dark shadows. I love making it more exaggerated than the image. Like with my drawings, I love to exaggerate the shadows, so I use 8B, 10B, and 12B, which be careful while sharpening these because you can break them really easily and be light-handed, which is really hard for me since I'm heavy-handed. Also for like if I want to fill an area with a complete dark thing, I use charcoal. I like the soft one more than any other one. I found that it goes on the paper really smoothly and really easily. For the last couple of things, I want to include highlights. I mostly use the correction pen for highlights, and I also use the Sakura Jolly Roll, but I recommend this correction pen more. Lastly, fine liners. I like using these for details, like for doing the eyes, or doing some fur texture with them. I got them in a couple different thickness. I got only two brands, called the Unipin and the M&J, which is a double nibbed thing. Now we're done with the artwork, we're done with the art supplies. We forgot one thing, the sealants. Now for acrylic paints, I use this Liquitex Basics acrylic matte varnish. Now I use the basic one. I don't have the professional one. It's more expensive, and I feel like there isn't a difference. I got it in matte. I don't really like glossy, but I sometimes am in the mood for glossy. So when I'm in the mood for glosses, I use this spray one, which also works for graphite or charcoal, and it just seals them in so they don't smudge everywhere. Boy, this was a long video. Oh my god, I've been talking to this camera like for an hour now. Anyway guys, I hope that you guys enjoyed this whole process through my art supplies. I hope that you guys learn anything. I will leave links to everything that I can leave a link to down below. I hope that you guys maybe got educated, learned what I like, what I don't like, and maybe saved you a little bit of coin. But yeah, I hope that you guys now know which art supplies do I use. I hope that you guys like this video, and yeah, thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you guys next video. Bye!